welcome to this 20-minute session on Power BI governance strategy quick start. As this is only 20 minutes, it's going to be a bit fast-paced. This is a non-technical session. It's more about what, not so much about how. So hopefully that everyone is okay with that. But if not, I don't mind if you stand up and find something else. That's okay with me. I'm Mausker. I'm a data platform MVP, originally from Iceland, living in Denmark. I wrote a book together with a fellow MVP called Michael Johnson called Microsoft Power BI Administration, which is about administration and governance of Power BI. I think it's still relevant, even though it's now 2-3 years old. That's also much about what, and not so much about what buttons to click. You have my contact information, you will get the slides. So, the agenda for the next 20 minutes is a small introduction to what governance is and why we are doing it. Then I'm going to go to talk about the strategy itself, what things to consider. If you have an IT or data strategy, how can you maybe leverage those to create your Power BI strategy? And then I'm going to take an example of a strategy and talk about the key bits, what I think makes sense. And of course, it's just my opinion here. The strategies are very often very specific to organizations, so there's no right or wrong in this. But hopefully it will give you some ideas and some thoughts about what to include in your Power BI governance strategy. Then we're going to end up with talking a little bit about documents and how to make sure they get into the right hands. All right, so why am I talking governance? This is observation. Unfortunately, when I go out to organizations to talk Power BI, most of them have never implemented Power BI. They turned it on, people started using it, but it hasn't really been implemented. And when I mean implemented, I think training, governance, everything around it, like you would do with an ERP system or a CRM system or something like that. When it comes to self-service tools, and specifically BI tools, they seem to be just turned on, and then at some point people will figure out that maybe it's not a good idea just to let everything go. And then that's where my observation is, and that's why I have been focusing and talking a lot about Power BI governance in the last couple of years. So you will get the slides. There is a link in the slides to the Microsoft documentation about this. It's getting better and better and better with the adoption roadmap. There's some really good bits in there. So if you follow that link, you will go to that site and you can read about what they think of governance. But it's often more technical than what I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about the fluffy stuff, the people and processes and stuff like that. So this is from our book. I'm not going to read this, but I want to say, in my opinion, the reason why you do governance for a tool like Power BI is to help people prevent accidental breaches. We're trying to help them do that. We are never going to prevent everything. That's just not possible. If people want to do something bad, they will find a way to do it. But we can help people prevent the accidental stuff by helping them do things correctly in the right way, using the right tools and so on and so forth. So that's our purpose with this. I have created a little bit of model about Power BI governance, and it has 5 different pillars. It has something about processes and frameworks, call them best practices, whatever, telling people what they should be doing. Then about training and support, how they should be doing it. And then about monitoring, are they doing it? And then a few other people, people pillar, which is about roles and responsibilities. And then I have extended it with the last one here, which is more about external tools and things you can do from the ecosystem. So not Power BI external tools necessarily, but more like purview and sensitivity labels and things that are in the periphery, but not part of Power BI. So that's why I have added this new pillar there to maybe make that more clear. So this is my model, but before you come down to that, before you start doing those kind of things, implementing something, you need to have a strategy. You need to think about what do you want to do, how do you want to do it, and how to communicate that. And when I start talking governance strategy to organizations, what I first want to ask normally, is there anything we can start from? Is there an IT governance strategy or a data governance strategy that exists already that we can maybe piggyback from, so we don't have to write it from scratch? If it isn't, it's fine. But if there is, we should definitely leverage that instead of inventing the wheel all the time. And of course, you probably have to use them if they are there. Then there's considerations that will impact how your strategy is going to be. Things like, how is Power BI used in your organization? Is it an enterprise tool? Is it a self-service tool? Managed self-service, or everything, all the above? I have been to organizations where, depending on where you are, it's different. Some IT thinks it's IT. Some business units have managed self-service, others have full self-service, and they just and that's okay. That doesn't matter. Then you might need to adjust your strategy depending on what the audience is. Then there's of course other considerations for the strategy. How do developers work with Power BI? What kind of level of experience do they have? What kind of external requirements do you have? You might have some standards, ISO standards, or something that you need to. You work in an industry that has regulations. So all these things impact, of course, your strategy as well. And then how much audit trail do you want? There's not unlimited there, and sometimes there are regulations that prevent you from keeping it for too long. But you need to do those things. I have some key considerations here that I'm going to come back to a little bit later on. But there are things that I think are really, really important when used now, and I'm going to talk about them again in the end. So these are the considerations, and if we start at the top, if you have an IT governance strategy in your organization, you should definitely try to understand it and figure it out. And what I sometimes have issues with is that if you just take the document and you read it, you might not properly understand it. So I think it's really important, if you have an IT strategy or even a data strategy in your organization, you should find the people responsible for it and have it explained to you. Just not because they tend to be a bit fluffy, those documents, right? They tend to be a little bit vague in exactly what they mean. So having them explained to you is a really good way to get started. And then of course focus on data-related topics. You don't want to be putting things in your Power BI governance strategy that are irrelevant, network protocols or security around things that are not important for Power BI. So just pick out the relevant parts and try to use them then in your Power BI governance strategy. And the same, of course, for data governance strategy. If one of those exists, you're in luck because they are often very relatable. If you have a data governance strategy, you can take most of it and use it in your Power BI strategy. It's not that you can take one-to-one, because there are things in the Power BI governance strategy that won't be in the data governance strategy, and vice versa, of course. But you can really relate to them, and you can take things from it because it's so close up to each other. When I was preparing for the session, I wanted to have some examples to work from, so I asked ChatGPT to make a data strategy for me, and this is what it came up with. It's actually pretty decent. It was really good to have an example there to work on, just to be able to illustrate the problem. But this is pretty good. So, and I have a long version of this session where I actually go through it, but I'm not going to do that today. And then, when you have those things in place, when you understand if there is a data governance strategy, if there is an IT strategy, what is the relevant parts there, you take that out and you start creating your own IT Power BI governance strategy. And if you have those other strategies, you should of course tie it up to that. It's important that you can show that this part of the IT governance strategy or a data governance strategy is impacting this one here, and you probably are required to do that, because otherwise you might not be fulfilling those strategies. I have created a sample strategy here where I talk about some of these things that I think are really important. Again, like I said, it's different from organization to organizations. There might be parts that you think are important, and you might word it differently, and all those different things. What I think is really important when you start creating your strategy is that you will most likely end up with a document, with 1 or 2 sentences per each, because those documents are usually not very big. But what I think you should do then, when you have those in place, you should really write explanations. What does it really mean? Operationalize it. What do we do from there? What does it really mean to have a Power BI governance team? And what's the impact of that? And so I would normally take each part of the strategy, and then I start looking into, okay, what does that mean? How do I make it work? And one of the big things that I think is often lacking is responsibility. If you don't have anyone responsible or accountable, it's pointless. There's no reason to do a strategy if nobody is responsible for the output of the success or the failures of it. So find someone who's willing to take responsibility. Management buy-in here is key. If nobody wants to take responsibility, again, like say, you can just drop the work. There's no reason for it. Then I have normally something about data quality. And depending on your organization, depending on how you work with Power BI, this could be something very, very technical, or it could be very, very fluffy. But normally in a Power BI world where you have some kind of self-service and you have those kind of things, data quality is often more about making sure that you communicate the data quality rather than looking into how to clean data in Power Query. That's not something that belongs in a strategy or an explanation of it. It's more higher level than that. So typically I will talk about endorsement. So what does promoted mean? What does certified mean? Something like that. What kind of quality is that? And then where do you want to use multiple environments to allow for testing to secure quality of data? So it's more on that level than on the cleaning data and that kind of quality stuff. Then something about access control. And again, depending a little bit on how Power BI is used, this might be different. If you are IT-driven development or managed self-service, this might be really strict and rigid controls of of access. But if you're in a self-service environment, it can be a bit tricky. Do you allow your users to be admins of the workspaces, and if then you've lost control, which is okay. It's fine. Don't be scared of that, because that's often very productive as well. But know that it's almost impossible in Power BI to enforce any kind of strategy in this. So you can tell people what you want, but enforcing it is extremely difficult. Because how do you prevent people from using individuals instead of groups on an app? You can't. That's just impossible. So it will outline some things about why security is important and how to use groups if you have them, multiple environments, all these different things. Then I will talk about data security, and this is a little bit different than access. So it's a slight difference there, because here we are more talking about securing sensitive data, not just security in general. Because there might be data you have in your organization that you don't want to, you want to protect specifically. So data loss prevention, again, sensitivity labels, something to do about that, and also data sovereignty. So do you have data that is not allowed to leave the EU, or you have data that is not allowed to leave the US, multi-geo or something like that help you keep data in certain areas. So this is where what I would, and it's like it's not very specific here. You're still just talking general speaking. In these kind of situations, you want to ensure that. Then I have data privacy, and this is about PII data, so personally identifying information. If you are in a situation where that is important, then you need to have something about that. And what I think is important here is because we have these laws about right to be forgotten. And we have, of course, laws. If you have a breach, it's really expensive and then things can happen. So no, don't just put in what to do. Also, what happens if things go out of hand. Have a plan for if there is a breach of those kind of data. Have a plan for if someone wants to be forgotten. This is, of course, only relevant if you have external data in your data. If you're only looking at internal data, then this really doesn't really matter, because employee has no right to be forgotten within an organization, but an external people do. Then I will have something about sharing and collaboration, and this is more of a signaling that you understand that things are important, that community and data culture is important. Of course, it will tie into some of the processes. So we'll have a sharing process, but this is more it's making sure people in the organization understand that you value data and you think it's important that data is shared and created value around it. So this is probably the most fluffy part of the whole thing, because it's more like telling people what you intend. And then we come down to the two most important parts, in my opinion. The first one is processes and procedures. So if you don't tell people what you expect of them, they don't know, and thereby they can't really do the right thing. So writing documents to give to people is extremely important, and it would be the first or the second thing I would do. And this is where the quick start come in. This is a very low-hanging fruit. Write some processes for people, call them best practice documentation if people don't like the word process, and help people get started. I find it when I come and do this for organizations, people tend to really like to be told, this is the right way to do it. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They really want to do the right thing. So as long as you are not coming with extremely rigid processes where I tell them, you're not allowed to do half of the things they want to do, then you're okay. So that's the most low-hanging fruit, in my opinion, and it's really easy to do. Yes, well, maybe not easy, but it's fast. You don't need to 4 months to create those things. You need a week at most to create them. At least if you've done a few times, like I've done. I would normally create a development process. How do you develop? How do you save your Power BI desktop files so they're secure? Where do you use Power BI desktop, or do you use the web, and all those different things that are about how to develop, publish and sharing, security. Do you use can I create my own workspace? Do I use multiple workspaces? How do I share? Do I use direct sharing or apps, or all those different things to tell people to do that correctly? And then I would do, these are first are for end users or for developers. So if I'm thinking self-service, it's like business people, but otherwise it's, of course, also applies to IT. Then you would have something about administration, document the tenant settings. Of course, you have to do that. Gateway process and a capacity process if you have Power BI Premium. And then the second part, which I think is extremely important, that's monitoring. Those two things, if you can get them started, you can do that in a couple of weeks, you're halfway there. The other you can write afterwards, but you get those things done, then you're really, really good off. Because if you don't have monitoring, you have no idea if they are actually on time or not. If they're doing things or not correctly. Have to monitor. It's really important. But be pragmatic about it. If you cannot monitor everything. Because if your only requirement is that they should use Power BI desktop to create Power BI reports, there's no way to monitor that. So be pragmatic there. So a quick start, create the best practices or processes for users, do the monitoring, and I claim it can be done in a couple of weeks. Depends a little, of course. And key considerations here to get started. Secure management buy-in, it's really important. Think about how much control you want. Don't close everything down. People will find a way to do things. If you close it down, they will just find another way to do it. They will export two things to Excel and make your data more vulnerable because they have a job to do. They have a boss that asks something of them, so they cannot just be ignored. And then, think about how you want to document it, how to understand what to do, and then how to enforce it. Because if you don't enforce it, it's not really a rule. You have to do that as well. And then lastly, it's really important, if you write any of these documents, make sure they get out to people in the right time and put it, in a place where they can find it. Ideally, you will, based on roles or responsibilities, they will just get delivered the documents. That's the best way, using some kind of process, but it's not always possible. With that, I'm out of time, and I will stay here for, if you have any questions. So we have a little bit of time between sessions. I know it was fast, and I hopefully you enjoyed it. If you don't have any questions, thank you very much. But if you do have, just raise your hand. I have